Hey everyone, welcome back to AskReddit Reads. Today's topic is, what's the worst thing your parents caught you doing as a kid? Let's get into it. When we were about 6 years old, me and a friend were having a contest seeing who could pee the furthest out of the third-story window. Some nosy lady came across the street and ratted us out to our parents. I still think I won, but we didn't get a chance to check who peed the furthest. Two memories come to mind. The first one was when I was 6 or so. I was a fairly curious child, and one day I took a giant poop. After I cleaned up, I decided to get a pair of gloves and dissect my poop to see what was all in it. My mom caught me and gave me hell about it all the way through adulthood. The second was when I had my first serious boyfriend over. I was 16 and my sister was 3 or 4. Being a little kid, she always wanted to come into my room. My curious little sister was the only reason I was allowed to close my bedroom door when he was over. My boyfriend and I would decide to fool around, and he pushed my beanbag in front of the door to slow down any intruders. Well, I wind up on my knees and his dick in my mouth, and lo and behold, here comes my mom opening the door. She couldn't get the door open all the way, but she saw enough. The next morning when she was driving me to school, she said very awkwardly, "Honey, please don't put your beanbag in front of the door anymore." Peeing into the air vents on the floor. Oh my god, I did this. To this day, I had no idea what led me there. I'm not alone anymore. My mom got 5-year-old me one of those giant novelty suckers that came with a pretty sturdy wooden handle. I decided to test the strength of the stick by pushing it against my bedroom wall as hard as possible. Such a strong stick. Dad walked in as I poked a 6-inch hole into the drywall. My sister had fallen asleep with her sucker the day before and got the whole thing stuck in her hair. No more giant suckers. Mopping/painting the garage floor with oil and destroying a waterbed with steak knives. My brother and I were both under the age of 5 when these things happened. He's older than me by about a year and a half and made other horrendous messes before I could start participating in them, including opening all the Kool-Aid packets on the kitchen floor and emptying an entire can of Crisco onto the bottom few steps in the house. He was bad. Our youngest brother is 6 years younger than me and was way worse in the mess department. He threw all my bottles of nail polish all over my room and destroyed most of my stuff, so I wasn't allowed to have any more. He cut up most of our pictures from when we were kids. Remember when you could still refill your own ink cartridges at home with a kit? He sprayed a whole pack of that stuff all over the living room, including the ceiling. Ruined the carpet completely. When my sister was 3, she was caught hiding behind a trash can eating butter after we specifically told her not to. Specifically, as in you mentioned she couldn't do it behind the trash can? When I was about 6, I was watching an episode of Pokemon. I had to pee, but I didn't want to miss anything, so I peed in a trash can. I thought that was super clever at the time, but as soon as my mom got home, she could smell it, and 21 years later, she still remembers. I bought a VHS video camera, saved up my money for so long to buy it from a dirty wee secondhand shop. I came home one day to find my mom had been, and still was, recording episodes of daytime TV shit all over my hours and hours and hours of masturbatory action. No words spoken, ever. Told my mom I was going into the woods to build a fort. I went into the woods, but brought my Game Boy, which I was grounded from, and a supply of batteries. Played Pokemon out there for several hours next to a tree until my mom came out into the woods and found me. Big trouble for me. When I was 4, my parents tried to potty train me, and they made me go around the house naked from the waist down, so I had to use the toilet. I shit on the floor, hid it under the couch when my parents walked in and blamed it on the cats. We didn't even have cats. Not me, but my best friend growing up. We found some porno mags in a field behind his house that he took home. When he would take a shower, he would cut out images of the girls, stick them to the inside of the shower, and do the deed, then flush the pics. Eventually, he had a porno mag consisting of all men, with the women all cut out. Needless to say, his dad found them and thought he was gay for a few years before talking with him about it. One time, my mother walked in on my girlfriend and I having sex to tell me that my father cut his finger off and that they were going to the hospital. There was a lot to unpack in that moment. I can't remember how old I was, but I was playing with an arrow, no tip on it, and I had the bright idea to walk behind my dad while he was working on the mower and crack him in the back of his head with it. When I was about 5 probably, I decided to literally headbutt my dad. He was talking to a neighbor at the end of the driveway, so my dumbass self decided to take off at a run from behind the garage door and ran my head right at his butt. I deserved that spanking, one of very few I had growing up. Less of a kid, more of a teen, but my dad walked in my room right after me and my GF got done doing the deed. I was standing, facing the door, cleaning myself up. His only word was wiener, while covering his eyes and shutting the door. I'm female. When I was 4, my mom caught me trying to sit backwards on the toilet. When I was 37, she walked in my room and found me passed out mid-masturbation with porn playing. She turned off the porn. Thanks, Mom. Every time when I'm almost passed out after doing it, I hear a giant loud noise coming from nowhere. It alarms me to get up and clean myself in the most extreme fashion. At this point, I'm convinced it's my brain who makes up the noise because he knows I'm going to be in trouble if he doesn't. I have a seriously distinct memory of this despite being so young, so bear with me. I'd say I was maybe around 3 to 4 years old. Someone left a turd in the toilet, and I remember thinking it looked distinctly pickle-shaped, so in my young mind I thought, hey, a pickle, and went to grab it out of the toilet. I realized it wasn't a pickle when I squished it between my fingers and my mom saw the excrement on my hands. She never brought it up to me when I was older, however. I don't know why, but as a kid I would put my hands in my pants because it felt warm in there, not for any other reason. It happened unintentionally sometimes. One morning I woke up to my parents looking at me concerned. I was confused until I looked down. As you can guess, my hand was in my pants and I immediately took them out. My parents were crying laughing, but I was so embarrassed. That night my mom gave me the talk. When I was about 7 or 8, I accidentally left the lid off of our dog food outside and it ended up raining that night. A couple days later, it was infested with maggots. I didn't know how to kill bugs, so products I deemed as harsh or dangerous went into the dog food maggot soup. They had doubled by the next day, so I figured I'll burn them out. Poured some fuel for our weed whacker in it and lit it up. The first initial flame was pretty impressive in size, but it scared me, so I grabbed our hose and sprayed it down. Within a week it was bubbling in its own, and hanging outside plants close to it started to die. I eventually tried to move it. My mom came out and saw me trying to move it and smelled the terrible concoction and decided to call the fire department. I don't know if they misunderstood or thought it was currently on fire, but they sent 2 fire trucks, 4 cop cars, then guys in full bodysuits. They shut down our whole block for hours. First they thought we were trying to build a meth lab, then a bomb or something. I broke down and confessed everything to one of the officers. Thinking for sure I was going to jail, I apologized to my mom, hugged my dog, and gave her my favorite toy. Instead, I got a firm talking to by several adults, and I guess they had to take my toxic poison mixture in the middle of nowhere and bury it. I was in trouble for so long, and it didn't even become a funny story to tell. Don't play with chemicals, kids. When I was a teen, I would push my parents' car out the driveway and go have fun. I always killed it and coasted it back. Did this for quite a while. One night I was at a party and let my friend drive it back. We got pulled over and they impounded the car. My dad had no car to go to work in the morning. It did not go over well. I heard the funniest story from my friend's mom. Apparently she always loved to get her mom's purse and empty the content and play with whatever was in there. Her interest was mostly her mom's lipstick and makeup, like other little girls. Once when they had come back from a family trip, she opens the purse and finds a condom. She has no idea what it is. She opens it and thinks it's a balloon and starts blowing it. Mom comes into the room, condom in her mouth, trying to blow it, and she turns around and asks her mom, "Why is the balloon so oily?" LOL. Her mom snatches the condom off her hands and gets super angry, gives her a timeout, and forbids her from ever touching her purse again. She said it was not until she was in her 20s that she remembered the memory and realized what that balloon was, LOL. I was probably 5 when this happened. I was wandering around my house looking for fun when I saw my dad shaving his beard with his razor. I had a crazy idea. When my dad was done with shaving, I grabbed it off the counter and ran outside to my pet dog. I started shaving my dog. And when I was halfway through, my mom spotted me through the kitchen window. TLDR, I was bored, so I grabbed my dad's razor and shaved my dog, and got caught. Edit. Yes, it did grow back, but it took 14 full weeks to fully recover. This is a depressing story. So when I was a kid, I was around 7, I was really depressed. I'm not sure if I actually had depression or not. So what I did was I wrote on a bookmark, "Even God hates me." My stepdad found it and I got in trouble. Instead of being a loving dad and comforting me about my feelings, I got my butt whooped for being sad. This is one of those things that affected my life. My mom worked late nights closing at a seafood restaurant, and my dad worked long hours as a sheet metal mechanic. For a few days a week, it was my dad's duty to feed my brother and I dinner and put us to bed. I was about 6 and he was about 3. One night, my dad was exhausted and fell asleep on the couch before dinner. He was a deep sleeper. My brother and I raided the kitchen and basically destroyed about a week's worth of groceries, flour and broken eggs all over the floor, bread with peanut butter stuffed in the toaster, melted popsicles and milk everywhere. We scattered the food and liquids all over. Everything was smeared in some kind of goo. We heard Mom get home, and we scattered. I think we pretended to be asleep in bed. My dad got screamed at, then we got our butts whooped. As a teenager, I went through a phase of masturbating with my eyes closed with my earphones on full blast. What put a stop to this was the time I had finished the deed. I opened my eyes, took my earphones off, and noticed that there was a fresh-made hot cup of tea on my bedside table. To this day, the thought that my mom brought me a cup of tea mid-wank mortifies me. Suffice to say, we had never spoken about it. Thank you for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing. It'll be greatly appreciated. And if you want to visit the original thread, I'll link it in the description. But yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one.